So one of the last Jeeps that I reviewed was the Jeep Gladiator, and I left my week of reviewing that vehicle with the thought that if you wanted a truck, the Ram just does trucks better. If you wanted a Jeep, the Wrangler just does Jeeps better. There was a bit too much of a compromise with the Gladiator for me, but this week, as you can see, I've been driving the all-new 2020 Jeep Wrangler. We're gonna get into all the specs, all the details here in just a second. Let's get into it. All right, and as you saw in that B-roll clip, this is the Sahara, but let's touch on all the trims offered for the Wrangler. There are quite a few of them. And just so I don't miss anything, we're gonna read off the list here. You have the Sport and the Sport S, you have the Sahara, you have the Rubicon, you have the Willys, you have the Black and Tan, you have the Freedom, the High Altitude, the Sport Altitude, the Sahara Altitude, the North Edition, and finally the Rubicon Recon. And of course, with all those trims, you can get the 2-door or 4-door. This is the 4-door, the Unlimited, and you have a lot of different options of roof styles and things like that. We'll get a little bit deeper into that here in just a few. But to kick it off, let's start off with the exterior of this iconic Jeep. So obviously the Jeep design is an iconic design. Anybody can identify that iconic grille. And although Jeep went through a refresh of its looks, of its interior, of its dimensions, it still is an iconic Jeep. And along with that iconic grille, you now have LED headlamps with LED daytime running lamps. You also have LED fog lamps. And I love the new headlamps. I love the side lamps on the fenders and this nice beefy looking front bumper cover. Along the side, again, you just have that iconic Jeep shape. Now the front windshield is a bit raked back more than the previous Jeep designs. I go into that a lot more with my last Wrangler review, because this design is a few years old now, but it is still that iconic Jeep design, that very boxy big wheel arch design. Now our wheels here are 18-inch polished aluminum wheels with gray spokes, and obviously we have the 18-inch all-terrain tires. And this is the Sahara edition, but that's probably one of the first upgrades that anybody buying this, trying to do any sort of off-roading at all, you're gonna replace those with some beefier tires. You can also see here on the front fender the trail rated badge, because this is trail rated. It's a Jeep that can go pretty much anywhere. We have the Sahara badge and the Jeep Wrangler Unlimited badge. And towards the back here, you have that iconic fuel cap cover. And around the back, again, another iconic design from Jeep with that wheel hanging out the back here. The door that swings open, we'll take a look at that in just a second. You have LED taillights, which are very bright. Again, you have that beefy bumper cover. And looking at the badge here, you can see that we are rocking the EcoDiesel engine, which we'll touch on in just a few seconds. And before we open up that back hatch and take a look, let's really quickly talk about the dimensions of this thing. So the Sahara has 10 inches of ground clearance with a 41.8 degree approach angle, 21 degree breaker angle, and a 36.1 degree departure angle. And in true Jeep fashion, everything is removable. You can remove these back sides, you can remove the doors, you can remove the roof, you can lay the windshield down, and this whole thing opens up and becomes, again, an iconic design for a Jeep. And speaking of that roof, this is the Sky One Touch Power Top. You have a lot of different options, including soft tops, hard tops. This one will actually retract all the way back with just a push of a button like a sunroof. It's a pretty cool design. We'll take a little bit closer of a look at it as we get inside. All right, and so let's talk about the rear cargo area here. First off, this is a swing open door. It does have the keyless entry, so I have the key in my pocket. Reaching up and grabbing the handle unlocks the doors. It swings open just like a Jeep should. This back folds up and you have a pretty good approach angle here. Looking deeper into the cargo area here, you have 31.7 cubic feet of storage space. You can fold down those rear seats and get 72.4 cubic feet. Plus you have a little extra cubby here for storing some more stuff. And as you can see back here, you have a nice big Alpine subwoofer. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we check out the interior. And this isn't the average old cargo area. You get a lot of cool features with this, including this plate right here that gives you all the dimensions of your Jeep, so you know exactly how high it is, your breakover angles, stuff like that, how far you can tread into water. If you ever need to know exactly what it is with your vehicle, you can look at it right here. You also have the JL right here. The previous generation was a JK. This is the JL. This area right here can house a few different things, including a table. This one right here doesn't have that table built in. This little notch up here is actually for a cup holder. And if you have that fold down table, it actually has cup holders as well. Pretty cool design for doing tailgating stuff. So let's close this up. Then we'll go pop the hood and check out that EcoDiesel engine. And like pretty much everything else, popping the hood in the Jeep is not a standard procedure. First, you have to unclip these hooks right here, and then of course release the latch. And then you do have kind of the standard pull down arm here, which props open the hood, but this thing is long enough and durable enough that you can use it to pull back the hood all the way back, like so. And that gives us a really good viewing angle at what really is the big story with 2020 and the Wrangler, is that 3-liter EcoDiesel engine. It is a V6 engine. It pushes 260 horsepower, 422 foot-pounds of torque, and is matched up to an 8-speed automatic transmission. I still remember the days when the Jeep had a 4-speed, and it still blows my mind that now we get an 8-speed transmission in the Wrangler. Now the EPA numbers here are 22 miles per gallon city, 29 miles per gallon highway, and I'll be sure to let you know what I'm averaging for the week when we take it for a drive. But before we do that, we do have some other engine options to discuss. You can get a 2-liter turbocharged engine with e-torque. You can also get that 2-liter turbocharged engine without e-torque. You also get a 3.6-liter Pentastar V6 with e-torque, or that 3.6 V6 without e-torque. All right, and with that, let's pull this back down. Close it up. Make sure you latch these things back good. And then we're gonna move on to the interior. But first, I wanted to say, if you're not already, definitely go check out TXGARAGE.com. If you're not checking it out, you probably should. We've got a lot of great contributors there, writing articles on cars, but also publishing news articles and event coverage. Again, a lot of great stuff from a lot of different contributors. My stuff's on there as well. I've got some more stuff I can pitch you, but I'm gonna wait till the end of the video on that. So if you're interested in some other ways you can consume our content or help us out, wait till the end of the video and I'll throw that at you. But let's jump into the back seats. And the first thing to talk about with the interior here is you do get pretty decent space. It's not a ton of space, especially for an SUV, but it is decent space. These crossbars here are pretty low, so if you're tall, your head will come in contact with these if you're not careful. But as you get past them, you got plenty of room before you actually get to the roof line. So there is plenty of room, not just for your head, but for your feet and knees. Plenty of room here. You also get your own vents back here. You get 2 USB and USB Type-C ports, and you get a 115 volt accessory plug back here. You also get this fold down armrest here with integrated cup holders. I really like this design because this is the headrest for the seat, and you got cup holders integrated into the back of it here. No extra storage back here, but again, this is just part of the seat. And I think that's pretty cool. All right, and let's jump out, run around to the front seats, take a look at the rest of the interior and tech in here, and then we'll take it for a drive. All right, first of all, if you watched my quick look video on the second channel where we do quick looks of all the vehicles before we actually do the review to get you guys' input, I hope you go and subscribe to that channel if you're not already. But we did the quick look video. I had a different lens on the camera, made the cabin look a lot tighter than it actually was. This is a Jeep. It's not a super big cabin, but it's not super tight either. The windshield is basically just right here. I can touch side to side, but it doesn't feel super cramped or anything. It feels nice, and it's a very comfortable, seating position, a very comfortable ride. This is the Sahara, and we do have the leather seats with the Sahara stitching into the seat. We also have a leather wrapped shift knob with that nice little Jeep logo right there. Your four-wheel drive stick right here to put it into from 2 high to 4 high to neutral to 4 low. We also have a leather wrapped manual parking brake with white stitching. These seats are also heated seats. You also have dual climate control in here. We do have a USB and USB Type-C port up here, an auxiliary port and an accessory port here. And let me crank it on to get the AC running, and I'll show you some of the other tech in this Wrangler. All right, and you do have an 8.4-inch touchscreen display with Uconnect 4C and navigation built in. You also have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto integrations, as well as a lot of other apps and a Wi-Fi hotspot. And as mentioned when we're looking in the back, this does have an Alpine stereo system. It is pretty good. Let's take a quick listen right now. Yeah, I think it sounds really good. It's got a lot of bass. You can turn that down if you want, but it doesn't impress me too much, but it definitely impressed my kids, whose music is more reliant on stuff like that. Next up, you do have a rear view camera. So when you put it into reverse, you do get that rear view camera with the guidelines. You do not get a 360 camera in this vehicle. Even though it being an off-road vehicle, I would love to see a 360 view. You don't necessarily need it for things like parking or day-to-day driving, but definitely off-roading, it would be nice to have that 360 view. You can get it in the Wrangler. This one's just not equipped. We also get a 7-inch driver information digital cluster display. So this can show different things for the driver. Right here we can see our average MPG is 26.7 miles per gallon. You can also flip it to see more fuel economy, driver assist features, your off-road features, some vehicle information, speedometer, your audio obviously, and a lot more. All right, and we could touch on a few other things in here, but I think it's time to take this thing for a drive. So again, one of the big things to talk about here is the driving with that diesel engine. You'll definitely know you're driving a vehicle with a diesel. You can hear that diesel engine roaring. It definitely has that very diesel sound. But all in all, it's not really a loud engine, so that's good. Obviously, I already showed you our fuel economy here. 26.6 miles to the gallon is superb in a Jeep. And you have an 18.3 gallon fuel tank, so that's pretty important for Jeepness as well. And all in all, I think one of the important things here is that this still feels like you're driving a Jeep. Jeeps have a very unique feel when you drive them. It's something that I've tried to explain to my kids who are just now learning to drive or just driving, that it is a different feel to have a Jeep. And even though this thing has a more modern drivetrain, more modern steering, an 8-speed transmission, a little bit more aerodynamic body, it still has that Jeep feel, which I think is what a lot of Jeep owners or potential Jeep owners are looking for. Of course, I've met those also who just like the looks and think it's cool to own a Jeep, who buy one, drive it, and then don't like it. But for the most part, people are looking for that Jeep feel, and this will deliver that to you. You also get nice driving features like blind spot monitoring, adaptive cruise control, parking assist, and these are all things that make owning a vehicle day to day just that much easier. And that's what I think a really impressive thing about this is. It does still feel like a Jeep. This thing can go anywhere, but it's still an easy day-to-day driver. During my week here, we put quite a few miles on this thing. I've driven this thing for my day-to-day commute. I've done grocery getting with it. We've hauled the kids around in it. I took a couple-hour road trip in it. It's very comfortable for day-to-day driving, especially the Sahara with these nice leather seats. But again, when it's time to go off-road, this thing is just a monster. And with that diesel engine, you get enough torque to give this thing some really good pickup and go. So getting up on a highway and going quickly is not an issue. Although I do find I drive this thing slower because your perception of speed is a little bit skewed because of the boxiness and wind noise in this vehicle as you're going. It does feel like you're going faster than you would be in a just normal SUV where you can cut through the air a lot easier. But I don't see that as a downside to this thing. Again, it's just part of driving a Jeep. One of the other features in this vehicle that we briefly touched on is this roof. It's a one-touch open roof, so you can just hold it down just like a sunroof. You get your open air here, but it goes all the way back and gives the rear seats open air as well. And man, if this isn't just the best way to drive a Jeep, I don't know what is. Basically the perfect time of year to do it as well, as it's sunny but it's not super hot. I had the kids in here yesterday with the roof completely back driving around Dallas, and they really enjoyed it as well. Definitely not gimmicky, definitely just a nice experience. Gives you a little bit of that Jeep open air experience without having to have the hassle of taking off the doors. Something I do want to do, I've never done in a Jeep review, is take off all the panels and put them back on. I want to do it with this. I think I'm going to do a separate video on it though, so be looking for that. And if I didn't end up doing it with this vehicle, then bug me down in the comments and I'll get me another Wrangler and I'll make sure to do it. And of course, closing it again is just as easy as opening it, just one touch. All right, and although we don't really have an off-road trail, we do have this tractor road back here that's all unpaved, has some pretty big ruts in it sometimes. When it rains, it gets pretty bad, but it hasn't rained in a while, so I don't foresee any really bad situations going on here. We're gonna take the Jeep out on it and see what we think. Now I do have it in 4 high again. It's not going to be muddy out here right now, so I don't foresee needing really probably even the 4 high. But just to test it out. Now, of course, I've tested out the Wrangler, the last generation, this generation, a lot of different Wranglers on a lot of different terrain, both during events like the Texas Auto Riders Association's Truck Rodeo or the Texas Motor Press Association's off-road event. And to speak to those events, the Wrangler has won 10 years in a row off-road SUV of Texas at the Texas Auto Riders Association's Truck Rodeo. So obviously it's capable and it's worthy of buying. And of course, that's not just my opinion, that's the opinion of a lot of automotive journalists who are members of the Texas Auto Riders Association, which we are. And as you can see, this thing's just going pretty smoothly over all this stuff. No real issues here. Of course, the problem with being in DFW is there's just not a ton of places that you can do off-roading out here, and there's really hardly anything that can give the Jeep a run for its money. So there's just not a lot of off-road testing that we can do here. But again, I know it's super capable and have a little bit of footage of it doing some super capable off-roading. And there it is. Unfortunately, that's about as off-roading as I can get for this review. But again, I've done a lot of off-roading in this thing. I know it's capable. And if you're interested in seeing more footage from that, if you want to go back and check it out, I'll probably leave some links in the description if you're interested in those. All right, and with that, let's find a place to pull over and talk about the price of this thing, and then we'll wrap the video up. All right, so a base Wrangler is $33,990. A base Sahara is $38,645. This one that we're in with some added options has an MSRP of $56,750. And so most people that ask me about vehicles and one of their suggestions is getting a Jeep, first thing that I tell them is that if they've never driven a Jeep before, they should definitely go drive one to see if it's even something that they like, the style of driving. Because again, I've known a lot of people that like the style of the vehicle, but then after driving it, don't necessarily like the style of driving. And the next thing I tell them is that Jeeps are kind of expensive and they hold their value really well. So even buying them used, they are pretty expensive. Obviously, there's a cult following of Jeep enthusiasts and Jeep owners, and it's a great community to be in. But if you're looking for a basic SUV for day-to-day driving, this shouldn't be your first thought. You should really be looking at a Wrangler if you're considering doing some serious off-roading, or if you do a lot of camping, or if you live at a place here in Texas where you need to be driving off-road a lot. It is great for a day-to-day city driving vehicle, but it's not really what it's built for, and you're really not putting it to its true potential if that's what you're using it for. But that never stopped anybody from buying stuff before, not really using it to its full potential. So if you've got the money for it and you just love the styling and you're okay with the way that it's driving, of course, buy one. But that's my takeaway consumer advice for this review. So let's jump out and wrap this video up. All right, guys, well, I hope you did enjoy that video. I'm curious on your thoughts or experiences with the Jeep Wrangler. If you've driven the new one, if you've had the EcoDiesel, or what you think about them putting the EcoDiesel into the Wrangler. So leave those down in the comments below. Hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. All right, and as promised, let me pitch you a few more things if you're interested in following us on other platforms, obviously other social media. We're pretty active on Instagram, but we also have an account with locals.com. Now, I know that sounds probably like a dating app, but Locals is an app to get communities together, including enthusiast communities like automotive enthusiasts. So we have an account there called txgarage.locals.com. And again, it's kind of like Patreon, where you can subscribe to Locals, subscribe to our page and get content there, or you can pay and get extra premium content. We've already got a couple of premium behind the scenes videos and things like that. We're planning on doing a lot more content as we get more subscribers there. So if you did enjoy this, if you have been watching us for a while and you're interested in a little bit more, please go over there and check that out. I would appreciate it. Even if you don't hit the paid tier, at least go subscribe with Locals and follow our page. And with that, I'm done. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, thanks for watching.